So here we are again. This time, we're going to be talking about how Jeffrey Epstein signed his will just 2 days before his alleged suicide. He left behind a nearly $600 million fortune. And, you know, the convicted sex offender, Epstein, owned 2 islands. Which, you own 2 fucking islands, you're a pretty wealthy guy. Like, Epstein was he was past rich, he was wealthy. And one of the islands, ironically, they dubbed Pedophile Island. All right, he left the islands behind. He left all this money behind, and he filed his will on August 8th, I believe. A lot of people ask, what did Epstein do? Like, what did he used to do? I come across, this many times. He was a former hedge fund manager, and he was worth $577 million. $577 million. In fucking sane, But it makes sense. I mean, think of the people he was around. For him to have been around those people, he obviously had to be hemorrhaging money. Ironically enough, the $577 million was about $18 million more than what he previously stated in court papers when he was trying to get bail on federal sex trafficking charges. And he put his holdings in a trust called the 1953 Trust. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out why that's what it was called. It was the year he was born. So, look, I have a clip I'm going to play for you, and then we're going to come back and talk about this a little bit more.
The breaking news on Jeffrey Epstein. 2 days before Jeffrey Epstein hanged himself in his jail cell, he signed his will, and he filed it. This has just come in from the New York Post. The New York Post parent company and the Fox News parent company share common ownership. And according to this brand new reporting, documents show the convicted pedophile was worth more than $577 million, which is about $18 million more than Epstein stated in court papers when he was trying to land bail on federal sex trafficking charges. Epstein's will filed with court officials in St. Thomas in the U.S. Virgin Islands, where Epstein owns 2 islands worth a total of more than $86 million. Here's what he lists as assets. In cash, some $57 million. In fixed income, $14 million. In equities, $112 million. In hedge funds and private equity, $194 million in property, including an Upper East Side Manhattan apartment worth $55 million, a ranch in New Mexico worth $17 million, the home in the Palm Beaches worth $12 million, a home in France worth $8 million, in the Virgin Islands, another worth $22 million, $63 million for St. James Island, and the new papers include a line for aviation assets, automobiles and boats, a collection worth more than $18.5 million. Now, there's no detail on where all the assets are going, but the court papers note that Epstein's only potential heir was his brother, Mark Epstein. All of this is being held in a trust called the 1953 Trust in court papers. 1953 is the year Jeffrey Epstein was born. It's a 21-page filing, according to the New York Post, that includes a copy of Epstein's death certificate from August the 15th, 5 days after his suicide, and it lists immediate cause pending further study. Of course, the city's medical examiner has since ruled that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself. The brand new reporting from the New York Post, Jeffrey Epstein signed his will stating he was worth more than $578 million. And there is no doubt those who claim to be his victims will be going after all that they can get.
Okay. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell, from what you just saw. Pretty intense. Look, even with, so him doing the will 2 days before his death, right, actually points more to it being a suicide. If I'm being completely honest, like, he knew he was going to end his life, and he was sort of getting his ducks in a row. But listen, it still smells like bacalao. It's still fishy as shit. And ironically, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, whether you're Democrat or Republican, I can say from what I've come across, in these last couple of days dealing with Epstein, it has united Dems and Republicans to a degree. Because we could be sitting there arguing till we're blue in the face, and then we both can be like, yo, that Epstein shit is pretty shady. And they're like, yeah, that Epstein shit, like, I don't know, man. I don't think it's a fucking suicide. So, ironically, this pedophile, has, his death has, in a weird way, caused an agreement between Dems and Republicans. And I'm not saying they agree who killed him, right? But what I am saying is they agree that his death was shady as shit. And I don't think, here's how I feel. I feel if he was killed, if a bounty was put on his head, it's going to be incredibly hard for it to come out, because obviously whoever did this has money. They have some sort of stature, right? And they're going to, I would assume they'd cover their trail as best as possible. So it's going to be, we're going to be hard pressed to find out who did this, because look, if you watch any media coverage in mainstream media, every single one of them is saying suicide. I dropped a video not too long ago saying it was confirmed suicide attempt, or so they said. It was confirmed suicide attempt. As a matter of fact, that video is in the card above. Check that video out, and you can hear what I had to say about it. But yeah, mainstream media is saying, done, open and shut. It was a suicide. The coroner says this. But the people outside of, the Washington bubble, the people outside of mainstream media, they're not buying that shit. They're not buying it at all. They smell the fish. They smell bacalao. They know something's up. And, yeah, you're not going to convince them, that some shady shit went on. And I need to hear more about what happened with those two guards. I know they got suspended, but I really need to hear more of what's going on. So yeah, I mean, that was pretty much it. I think he left what was in his will, the contents of his will, to his brother. And I think his brother's name is Mark Epstein. I'm pretty sure it's Mark Epstein. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Mark Epstein. And, he left him what he had. He's had, aviation assets, automobiles, boats. And that collection was worth 18 mil. He had, he had eccentric, art collections that were, all erotic. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. I told you things are going to keep unfolding. So everybody just, stay tuned. I'll bring it to you and we'll talk about it. If you like what you see, if you like what you hear, please like, comment, and subscribe. If you don't, let me know in the comments why. I'm always down to talk about it. Hopefully I'll be seeing you guys soon. Peace.